Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming to TRIAD today. I want to thank everyone for coming in this heat. I'm really happy with our turnout today. Our attendance is fantastic, so thank you for coming. Today our speaker is Michelle with the Forest Preserve District of Will County. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you to you, Marissa, for having me, and thank you to all of you for coming out in the heat today. I appreciate that. I know it's a scorcher. I don't have a clicker, so I'm going to kind of stand at the podium, and we're going to look at our slides. So as she already shared, my name is Michelle. I'm with the Forest Preserve District of Will County. I work out of Hidden Oaks Nature Center. That's one of our newest buildings. That's in Bolingbrook, and I'm going to talk to you probably way too much about that later because I'm very excited about where we are. And I think maybe I'm just going to kind of jump right in. So this afternoon, I was thinking that we would just talk a little bit about the mission of the Forest Preserve. I'm going to give you a general overview of all of our preserves, talk a little bit about all of our facilities, talk just a little bit really about all of the many offerings that we have, all the programs, all the things that we have going on. And then I also mixed in a little bit of games just to keep everybody thinking I'm not talking at you and we can just have a little bit of fun and test our knowledge at the same time. And then as some of you already know, I have some handouts at the front table and I'll be available afterwards so we can talk about some of those, and if you want some more information, I can let you know how I can get that to you also. So the mission of the Forest Preserve District is to protect and enhance Will County's natural and cultural resources for the benefit of our current and future generations. And you're going to see that as I go along. Well, when we think about the Forest Preserve, we generally think about trees and forest and plants and nature and those things. Really, we do a much more encompassing thing because we do embrace our culture, and some of our sites really do a fabulous job at also embracing our history. And then our motto is to bring people and nature together, which we all kind of seem to enjoy. The one good thing about the Forest Preserve that I think is a benefit for all of you is that 99% of everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is 100% free because we are a taxpayer-based group. That's where most of our funding comes from. We do have some donations and gifts and things, and we also have our primary fundraising group, which is the Nature Foundation of Will County. So if you can look at the map, this is Will County, and anything that you see in green is properties that are either owned or managed by the Forest Preserve District of Will County. In general, we own and manage around 4% of Will County. And we have lots of locations spread throughout the county. Way up there in the north, you'll see in Bolingbrook, that's where I'm located. That's Hidden Oaks Nature Center. If you go a little bit further south to that other green patch there in Romeoville, that's Isle a la Cache. That's another one of our visitor centers and a museum. In Joliet, that's Sugar Creek. That's our administration center. And then if you jagger all the way over this way to Moni, that's Moni Reservoir. So we're really crossing the county. And then when you get here a little lower to Beecher, that's where Plum Creek Nature Center is. And then all the way over there in Channahon, that's where Four Rivers Environmental Center is. And then while we don't have nature centers throughout the whole county, we actually have quite a bit of trails. And as I was sharing with someone earlier, one of our trails actually does end all the way down there in Wilmington. You can get on one of our trails in Joliet and go 22 miles all the way to Wilmington. So we do cover quite a bit of territory. Our first preserve was Messenger Woods that was purchased in 1930. Messenger Woods is still one of people's favorite preserves to visit. It's actually grown since then. Some property has been added on. If you visit in the spring or in the fall, it's a wonderful place for migrating birds. The owls there are amazing. There's also pileated woodpeckers if you're a bird person. And in the spring, the wildflowers are just amazing. So I'd recommend it if you're a hiker. Up to now, since then, since our first preserve, we now own and manage around 23,000 acres of land and 125 miles of trails. And those are paved, unpaved, but that's quite a bit. And our largest preserve is Hickory Creek Preserve with 1,541 acres, and that's in New Lenox. And that's an amazing preserve too. I could go on about that one forever. So when I was showing you the map, I was highlighting some of our visitor centers. And that's where that's what I'm going to spend the rest of our time talking about now. Four Rivers Environmental Center there in Shanahan, Hidden Oaks, where I'm from, in Bolingbrook, Isle a la Cache in Romeoville, Sugar Creek in Joliet, Plum Creek, which is another nature center that's out near Beecher, and then the Moni Reservoir, which is a nice little visitor center, and lots of fishing takes place there. So starting off here in Joliet at our Sugar Creek Administration Center, that's where you're going to find our finance department, our marketing and our accounting, our information technology people. We have amazing volunteers within the district. Our volunteer coordinator has her office there. Our natural resources staff are there, as well as our executive staff. If you ever have a chance just to visit the building, it's a really cool building. It's been recognized as a green building. And you can visit there. So you can visit there Monday through Friday, and you can get a picnic permit if you'd like to rent a pavilion to have a party, or you can get a camping permit because we do have some of our preserves that allow camping. And you can buy your dog park pass there. And there are also lots of maps and publications, because even though pretty much everything is all online and it's very extensive, some people just really like having that map in their hand. I know I do. So Sugar Creek, the administration center, is also surrounded by a very large preserve. And it's got a very nice loop. It's a crushed limestone trail, and you can travel through there and look at and see a variety of wildflowers and grasses, and I believe that northern harrier have been spotted there. For those that are not familiar, they're a bird that's smaller than a red-tailed hawk, but a little bit bigger than a Cooper's hawk, so a bird of prey, and that's a really cool thing to see. And as I was sharing earlier with someone else, you can get onto the Waponsie Glacial Trail from there, and you can park, and if you want to walk, all that way in one day, which seems like a lot, it's around 22 miles. You can bike it also. But it's about 22 miles, and it's going to put you off all the way down in Wilmington, over there by the Kankakee River. So it's quite a hike. It's really quite a hike. With that in mind, since I did say that there's a lot of wildflowers there, I have a little game for us. Name that milkweed. There are up to 24 species of milkweed that grow in Illinois. I selected 3 of the most common ones to see if anyone is familiar or can guess their names. Anybody? Yes. All right. Bingo. Common milkweed. Got it. What about the one in the middle?
Begins with an A. I don't know.
You were right. That's the scientific name. You're right. That's the genus. I can't say it either. It's like Acalepsis or something, but that's right. You're right. That's butterfly weed. And the last one on the end? Yes, swamp milkweed. You're right. See? All right. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So next, that brings us to Channahon and our Four Rivers Environmental Center. For those of you that might be from the area and remember a little bit of the history, we call it Four Rivers Environmental Center now, and it's also McKinley Woods. But back in the day, it was Moose Island. I think a lot of folks know it as Moose Island. So since then, it's changed quite a bit. And it's a really amazing place to visit because it's where the Des Plaines, the DuPage, and the Kankakee rivers all come together, and then they go down to make that Illinois River. If you've ever been, it's got a huge indoor area with glass. It's the site for a lot of folks that they might have their wedding reception in there or get married in there. In addition, it has a beautiful view of the river, and it's not uncommon to see bald eagle. And as someone was sharing earlier, you can also see pelicans when they're migrating through. It's really a sight to behold. In addition, Four Rivers just got done with some renovations, which are really super exciting. They've installed the aquarium that you see here, and it's home to native fish that you would find here at the confluence. And there's a largemouth bass in there, and I know there's at least 2 of an endangered species of sunfish that call it home there. In addition, there's a really neat bird viewing window that has running water, and there's some activities for the kids that involve water and sand and how the land molds with the water. And then one of the most important things that we have there is our All-Persons Trail. The All-Persons Trail is around 2 miles, and it goes around outside. It can take you along the river. You can go through some of the grassland and some of the wet areas. And because it's paved, it's accommodating for people that may have any mobility issues at all. Along the trail, there are other things to assist people that may have other sight impairments or other things. And inside the facility, you can find buddy bags, or it's possible that if you need a quiet zone, or if you need someone that needs a pair of headphones, if they have sensory issues. And then in addition, they have Sensory Sundays, which are programs that you have to sign up for, and they're limited in their numbers. And they are for people that would benefit from being able to visit the nature center in a more quieter, small group setting. And then in addition, the staff there have undergone special trainings so that they can bring the programs and bring the facility to you, and that all of you in your group, no matter your abilities, can have the very same experience when you're done. In addition to all that, the naturalists that are there are doing public programs, and they're hosting school groups. And Pelican Watch is coming up. That's a big event that they have in September. That's where the pelicans are going to be migrating. As you shared earlier, it's hit or miss whether or not you're going to see those pelicans. Your best bet to know is if you follow social media at all, or if you know someone else that does. Follow the social media page for Four Rivers, and they'll tell you, pelicans are here, now's the time. And it may not be on September 23rd. And then lastly, another one of their big programs is in January, they do Eagle Watch. And this year, Eagle Watch was huge. I mean, they were a packed audience. They have demonstrations. Someone had an eagle that you could see. There's programs. They're doing bird hikes and all those kinds of things. It's a really good thing. And then in addition, you'll find that most of our visitor centers will also host to other kind of programs and I guess traveling things. So coming up next in October, they're going to have something called Golden Opportunity Botanical Illustrations, and it's by the Denver Botanical Gardens, and they're going to be highlighting artwork that is yellow, and yellow birds, yellow grasses, things and beauty that you'll find in nature. and then also how animals view and see colors. And then if you bring younger kids along, there's going to be crafts and activities for them also. And since they're such a birding place, I have another little challenge for us. I'm going to play the calls for a few birds. I'm going to play a belted kingfisher, a bald eagle, and an oriole, a Baltimore oriole, and you can tell me which you think is which, and you may be surprised. Okay, so let's see. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You tell me first. I'll do it again. So it's going to be oriole, eagle, or kingfisher. Okay, you're right. Oriole. So we're eliminating one. Consensus? All right, let me play the last one so you can be sure. All right, here we go. I'll do it once more. Okay, so one was kingfisher, one was eagle. What's your consensus? Which one was bald eagle? This one? You're right. You're right. This was bald eagle, and that other woman's a kingfisher. I don't know. To me, I always expect that bald eagle to be some sort of shrieky kind of like, get out of my way kind of thing, and it doesn't really sound that way.
Sounds like a cute little bird.
It does. It does. Not that big, tall, you know. Yeah. Okay. So again, another big thing that they do in Shanahan is they have their migration celebration, and that's also another really fun day. Because they have all that water near them, they are not just getting the migrating songbirds, they are also getting some of those other water birds, those shorebirds, those really cool gulls. And like we said earlier, the pelicans, the bald eagles, it's not uncommon for them to nest in regions along the river over there. So it's really a cool thing. And when they have their migration celebration, it's again, they have activities and programs and hikes, and the experts are out there answering your questions and just taking you out there to see all those birds. Okay. So our next challenge, since we talked about all that water, was I've got some frogs for you. These are all, I think, a little trickier. So we have a green frog, a gray tree frog. Tree frogs really do climb up in the trees, and if you can see those little pads on his toes that help him stick. And then the American toad. All right, so here's our first one. Should I do it again? They're noisy. Okay. Then our next one. And then our third one. This last one, a lot of people think it sounds like you're plucking a banjo. Okay, does anybody have a guess on the last one? Toad. Toad. Oh, the toad is that little screamy guy. Yeah, so I'm going to let you listen. So when you hear that, imagine you're out and it's springtime and you're just going for a walk and there might be a seasonal pond or maybe a creek or something near you. You are going to hear a bajillion of those guys calling all in unison. They do that in the spring. And if you can creep up on them just right, you can see as their throats inflate and they're making that sound. It's really something to behold. And it's very loud depending on how many toads there are.
Is that a mating call?
Yeah, actually it does. And if you walk up on them in the creek, you may be catching them in a moment. But it is a way that they're calling, and that's why it's doing it in the spring. Yep. Okay, so then what about this one? The banjo. Is he the gray tree frog or the green frog?
Let's go with the green one.
You're right, it is. It's the green frog. It is. So typically for me, I would hear those guys when I'm in a boat and I'm just kind of fishing, and you just hear that glug, 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 glug. And it's you can almost miss it, but it's that glug, 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 glug. And then, of course, the gray. Where is he? Yeah, nice work. Nice work. That was the gray tree frog. And I think usually you're going to hear them a little bit more towards evening. Yep, yep. Yeah, because I mean, they're really a kind of species that you don't really see during the day. You know they're there because you can hear them, just like those katydids, those singing insects we see in the summer. Okay. So now that brings us to Romeoville, to Isle a la Cache. Again, for those of you who may be familiar with history or know the area, back in the day, before it was Isle a la Cache, it was Murphy's Bar and Restaurant. Does anybody remember that? Okay. Or maybe just people talking about it. I've seen photos and heard folks talking about it. It's undergone a lot of changes since then. Isle a la Cache means island of the hiding place. It is an actual island. Folks don't even realize that when they go. They're like, are we on an island? And you're like, yeah, you are. Because you drive over a small bridge, and then to leave, you drive over a small bridge if you go out the opposite way. So you really are on an island. I don't want to spoil what all of that means in case you should visit, but it does mean island of the hiding place. Isle a la Cache focuses, and this is where I said we talked about our cultural and historical history. They focus on the Potawatomi and the French fur traders around 1750. So they have inside exhibits telling you about what that island may have been used for, what things may have taken place, and definitely, because we have the books to prove it, what took place in the area with the French and the French fur traders and the Potawatomi people. Inside, there's a wigwam that has interactive things. Young kids really seem to enjoy that. There's a library that has an amazing bird viewing window with some extremely comfy chairs. It's not uncommon for folks to come and sit in the chairs for a little while and then maybe even have a nap. But the bird view, it's an amazing, they're amazing chairs, and it's a beautiful view of the birds. And then there is a hat shop inside. Again, I don't want to spoil why there is a hat shop there, but I can tell you that it does connect to the French and the fur traders. And then the naturalists there are doing first-person interpretation, which means that they are dressed in period clothing representative of what French people would have looked like in that day, the traders, what they would have looked like in that day. And then also, and this is a really big highlight, especially with young people, they have an endangered Blandings turtle exhibit. They have 4 Blandings turtles on display. They're all girls. Blandings turtles used to live, well, they still do live, but they were much more prevalent in the area. They are native to here. You can still find them in some little pockets. Due to habitat loss and water that's not so clean, because they do require really clean water, they were disappearing. But fortunately, up until a couple of years ago, the Forest Preserve District, DuPage Forest Preserve District, I want to say Lincoln Park Zoo, and a couple of other governmental bodies were breeding them, and they were taking their eggs from the wild, incubating them, growing up those hatchlings just a little bit, and so that they would have a much better chance when they were re-released back into the wild to increase those populations. And I'm very excited to say that their numbers are going up. And you can follow a lot of that and that success, again, on those social media pages that we have, especially for the Isle Cache one. Then also on the island, so the museum is open Tuesday through Sunday, but also just on the museum campus itself, there is a representation of a Native American longhouse that you can visit, as well as a French fur trader cabin. Now, those are not open every day, but they do have publicized campus days where you can see those, and there are people there that you can talk to and ask questions and learn all about them. Then in addition, one of their great big events is that they have a pollinator party in June. They're celebrating birds as pollinators. They're celebrating bees as pollinators, even the bats. They have professionals come in with some live bats. Sometimes, you know, sometimes they'll have like other birds that might be there. In addition, our native plant sale, they have a little pop-up sale there where you can purchase native plants, and they have other activities, and all the buildings on the campus are open. So since Isle Cache is known for its trade of furs, I'm going to test everybody's knowledge today. First of all, to ask you if you can name all the creatures. The first guy all the way there on the left with the long tail. Muskrat. Okay, perfect. All right, muskrat. How about that cute little guy in the middle with the nose? An otter, that's right. And then the last guy, river otter. Beaver, perfect, perfect. Okay. So now that we have everybody ID'd, my question to you is, if you were a French fur trader and you wanted to trade your furs from those creatures, which would be the one that would get you the most money? So your gold, silver, and your bronze. All right, so who's going to be the fur, the kind of Muskrat, okay. And you think beaver would be number 1. And then river otter would be number 2. Okay, so number 1, our gold goes to the river otter. Now, I find that surprising too, but the thing is, river otters were a little bit more difficult to come by. There was a lot of beavers, although if you know the history, which you can learn at the museum, otters were nearly extirpated, not otters, I mean beavers were nearly completely wiped out from Illinois because of the trade, and thankfully they've built their numbers up. So, but anyway, getting back to my point, yeah, so the river otter, far less of them, so that means that the price was driven up, and they were only for the rich folks who wanted that pelt. So you would get far more money. So while you could get a lot more beaver pelts, the more money you would get was for the otter. And then, of course, your muskrat, number 3. I don't know anybody that's ever owned a muskrat coat. That okay. So now that's going to bring us down to Moni Reservoir. That's going to be more south and to the east. That's a little bit of a hike from here. Moni Reservoir is a lot of fishing, a lot of boating. They have a wonderful little concession stand where you can buy sandwiches. You can get a variety of baits. You can get minnows and wigglers and worms of different kinds. You can also rent a fishing pole, and by rent, I mean you leave your driver's license and you get to use that pole. There's not actually a fee. And you can also purchase your fishing license there. If you don't have one, the Forest Preserve does follow the Illinois Department of Natural Resources guidelines, so that anyone 16 and older just needs a fishing license. And in addition, you can rent a rowboat, and it'll just have a trolling motor. That's an additional fee, so they don't have any speedboats or anything out there. Moni Reservoir is a man-made reservoir. And I don't know if you do follow that social media, but someone just pulled a catfish out of there that was like this big. My eyes nearly fell out of my head. I was shocked. Yeah, wow is right. Okay, and then in addition, all of the interpretive naturalists that are employed by the Forest Preserve District, we are all certified kayak instructors. So we do teach kayak programs out there. And you can also rent a canoe or rent a kayak out there for fishing or just recreation or whatever you like. Oh, and then a big one that they do is they do have fishing derbies too. And those prove to be really popular. And I know they're doing one this year. They're doing it a little bit different. Rather than having folks catch the fish and take it out of the water and bring it to the stand to be weighed and measured or however that derby is working, they're just asking you to take a picture of it, because then if you're going to re-release that fish, you have him out of the water for that least amount of time. Another big thing that they do, because you'll see that as I've shared, all of our facilities have big events. The big one that they just had was their surf and turf concert. I want to say it was like a month ago or so, and that was really great. They had a couple of different musicians and bands come in. They're right there on the edge of the water. They were playing. If you had your own kayak or your own canoe or your own little rowboat, you could, get into the water and listen to the music. Or you could just bring up your lawn chairs or your blankets and sit there and listen as well. And then I think they even had a couple of food trucks. So it was a nice little evening event. It was at night. And as I was sharing earlier, that's one of those things that's really nice, is because someone had said, the preserves all close at dusk. And we know that, and that's why as naturalists, we try to bring you that programming that's going to be at night. So you can come out in the evening and experience the preserves at night. And that's one of those that is in the evening and you can enjoy at night, because usually those gates are closed. And then another big one that they do too, if you're a big into fisherman and you want to do that nighttime fishing, is they have Midnight Madness, where they are open and you can fish until midnight. And I don't know about you, but that sounds really fun. Oh, I screwed it up. I've screwed it up. All right, so here's our next contest. Name that fish. Clearly, I made a mistake. There's our largemouth bass. Can anybody guess the guy in the middle? Bluegill. And okay, so the one in the middle?
I thought the crappie was on the right.
Okay, so who says crappie's on the right? And who says bluegill's in the middle? You're right. You're right. So that's the bluegill in the middle, and that is a black crappie on the right. Exactly. Nice job. Nice job. Okay. So maybe around 20 minutes or so away from there, that's going to bring you to Plum Creek Nature Center. That's in Beecher. That's one of our really popular fun nature centers. They have some live animals. They've got a snake and a blue-tongued skink. I think they have a couple turtles. Sometimes they have some fish. They have a really cool beehive that you can see the bees working inside. They do a lot of programs where you can meet the beekeeper and learn all about the bees. They do sell honey. They do sell the native honey there. In addition, pretty much anytime you visit any of our nature centers, if you have little ones with you especially, we always have some kind of passive programming that's taking place. So in other words, in the month, let's see, what are we doing? Right now, we have a scavenger hunt for you can learn about hummingbirds. So you come in, you'll pick up your paper, and it'll say, find this and this and this, either outside or inside the nature center, and cross it off. And as you're going along and finding those things, you're learning about them, and then you come back to our desk, and usually we have some kind of small prize. And you'll find that pretty much all of our visitor centers have something like that. And then in addition, they do a lot of activities, and they have a lot of kids programming over there. They're also host to a ton of school groups. They do things with ponds, and they're doing things with mammals, and they're doing animal tracking, and they do a lot of things with owls and owl pellets and bones. So they are covering a lot of territory over there. In addition, you can camp at Plum Creek. They have around 7 campsites. In the wintertime, they have a very popular sled hill. You can rent a big inner tube and you can slide down their sled hill. And then they do have some really, really beautiful hiking trails. And in addition, they have a really large bird feeding area. And it's also, they have little smaller rocky pools for butterflies to come and have a drink in addition to all their native plants.
That thing in the middle, is that the water chute?
No, that's a part of the trail. So that goes across the ravine. That's one of their hiking trails. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, you're way up there in the canopy.
Maple syrup?
I don't know that they're doing maple so much anymore. I know that they did last year. Okay. It kind of varies because that's another thing is I shared earlier, a lot of times we're going on the feedback that we get from you. If we get folks that say, you know, hey, I'd really like to see this programming, if we can make that happen, we will. And in the same token, we don't want to keep offering the same tired things over and over again. It's time to mix it up and do something different. Okay, and then what they just had last weekend, which was huge, was they had their Hummingbird Festival. Did anybody here go? No. So what happens during Hummingbird Festival is they are actually, the hummingbirds have already started to migrate from the north down to the south. They're headed to Mexico and even further. And so as they're migrating, this is a good time for scientists to conduct a little research, find out who's migrating and just other measurements and things like that. So they're gonna, they trap them, they weigh them, they do measurements and things, and then they put tiny little leg bands on them, and then they send them off on their way. And along the way, you can watch, you can see what's happening, you can learn all about hummingbirds. I know that at Hummingbird Fest, they also have...
Where do they catch it then?
So...
1,000 miles an hour.
Yes, they are. So really, just like you see in the cartoons where, you know, they set up the little cage with the stick and the string, they do have an actual setup very similar to that. So they'll put a cage with a door out, and they will put that hummingbird feeder inside. And they'll do that for a time before, a week, 2 weeks, to get the hummingbirds comfortable with coming in and feeding and flying out. And then on the day that they want to trap them, they just pull that string, and then they can go and get them. A great question, really great question, because I agree with you. They're a million miles an hour. And so then they send them on their way. And then in addition, they have a pop-up plant sale where you can buy native plants that you can plant in your yard so that you can attract those hummingbirds to your yard. So this, I think, is going to be our trickiest one, our mascot. Does anyone have a guess? He's not a beaver. All right, he's a woodchuck. Okay, and what is his name? Woodchuck. Oh, I heard Chuck. Yeah, you would think. You're close. You're close. So we are the Will County Forest Preserve District. Willie. Yeah. So that's Willie the woodchuck. And Willie does make appearances at special events, just like here at the Hummingbird Fest and other things like that. And I know that I only shared a little bit about what Plum Creek does with all their children's programming, but pretty much all of our nature centers have that kids programming. And we also make it a point that we're not just offering things for the littles, we are offering things for adults and you know, younger people as well. We try to hit all of those mediums.
Did you just call children the littles?
The littles, yeah. I taught preschool for a while, so I'm kind of accustomed to that. So this brings me to Bolingbrook. This is where I am. This is Hidden Oaks, and this is the place that I am the most excited about. And I want you all to come and see me. So Hidden Oaks is the Forest Preserve's newest acquisition. Up about a year and a half ago, well, maybe closer to 2 years now, the property was purchased from the Bolingbrook Park District by the Forest Preserve. And about a year and a half ago, our naturalists moved in. I wasn't there yet. Susie was. Susie, who I know some of you said you watch her on Channel 6, and I'm going to talk about her a little bit more in a second. They all moved in, and we've been there about a year and a half now, and our building is awesome, not going to lie. So we have some live animals. We've got Gilly, our salamander. We have Creed, our snapping turtle. He's only about this big now. He's got some growing to do. He's going to be really big someday. And then we have a snake. And in addition, we have a couple box turtles and a red-footed tortoise. Outside, out back, we have a nature playscape where the kids like to go and play. And it's not like your typical playground sort of toys. It's things that are made out of wood, stumps, things to climb on, to kind of promote that natural nature play. We do offer a lot of public programming for all ages. And we have a lot of hiking. We have some hiking trails out back. And you can hike down to the lakes, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Yeah, I think I'll talk about it now. So right behind our building, we have our small little oak forest. And if you hike down our trails, that is going to take you to Hidden Lakes. Now again, there's that little bit of a historical piece. Back in the day, it was Hidden Lakes Historic Trout Farm. And I know we get phone calls a lot from people that say, I was 7 years old and I used to fish there. I thought you were raising your hand like I did. But back in the day, and for me, when I think of trout farm, I think of like metal tanks with trout. And it's not really like that at all. Really what it is it's 4 ponds, and you can come and bring your family. We have a brand new bait shop that's there. They offer all the kind of baits. They have the worms and the minnows and the wigglers. Just like with Moni, you can rent the fishing pole. We do have fishing derbies. We have fishing derbies for kids, and we group that by age. And we have fishing derbies for grown-ups. And then we also have some other fishing programs like first-time fishing for people that have never fished before. And that's to teach you how to cast, how to tie the knot, how to put the worm on the hook if you're comfortable, all those kind of things. And then if you were to walk past the ponds, and take the bridge over, that would put you at Wallen Lake, which is just on the other side, and that's a very large lake. We have a lot of kayakers that go there, canoes. We do programs there. We have like our kayak college where we teach people how to kayak. People just come in the morning and put in their own kayak there. It's really quite beautiful. The most exciting part is, like I shared, that we just purchased the property about 2 years ago. We're going to be undergoing some renovations starting in February. We are going to be getting some updates for our animals. They're going to be moving into more permanent type exhibits out of aquariums. Our upstairs, we have a rentable space that's going to be remodeled a little bit. Out back, our trails, which if you've ever visited, they're rather steep going down, because the Forest Preserve is very interested in making sure that all of the things that we offer are inclusive of everyone. They're going to be improving the trails to make them a little bit more accessible. They're going to be building like a raised boardwalk area so you can feel a little bit more like you're going to be up in the trees. And then what else do we have? Some outside things, improvements to trails. So it's going to be a really exciting time. We're pretty excited about it. So that'll be starting in February. Okay. So then that brings me to getting you to come and see me and all the different ways you can find out about how you can see me and all the other naturalists and everybody else. Our website is reconnectwithnature.org, And everything that you want to know is on there. In addition, if you're interested today, I can sign you up to get our email. We have 3. One is Get Going, the other one is the Compass, and the other one is Flock and Feather. And I'll start with Flock and Feather. Flock and Feather is just for those bird enthusiasts. One of our staff puts that together. It's all about everything birding, who's where, what they saw, what you should be looking for. Get Going is going to be telling you what's happening this particular week, what programs are coming up, and then the Compass is going to be an all-encompassing idea of everything that's going and all the bigger programs that are happening at the time. We do have probably more than 20 Facebook pages because generally most of the preserves and all of our visitor centers have their own Facebook page. And they do Instagram, and we are on Twitter. And then the last one is, someone mentioned this, is The Buzz. And The Buzz is a YouTube show that is produced by the Forest Preserve. The host is Susie Lytle. She's one of our naturalists. And she does about a half-an-hour show where she visits various preserves and highlights all the things that are going on there. And she throws in all kinds of fun stuff and information, too. Yeah, I think I kind of covered everything. Does anyone have any questions?
TRIAD works to improve the quality of life for seniors by providing an opportunity for the exchange of information between public safety, social services, and seniors. There are no membership papers to fill out or fees to pay. Everyone is welcome to attend. Each month, we present a guest speaker on subjects that keep you informed and up to date on the latest scams, frauds, and other criminal activities. We also discuss safety issues, home preparedness, and staying healthy. TRIAD meets the 4th Thursday of every month. Contact the New Lenox Police Department at 815-462-6100 for more information.